The cafeteria buzzed with the usual chaos, clattering trays, loud conversations, and the dull roar of hundreds of teenagers trying to survive lunchtime. Mia stepped in quietly, almost invisible among the noise. She carried her tray close to her chest, eyes scanning the room for an empty seat where she could disappear. It was her first day, and she wanted nothing more than to blend in. But unfortunately, Brittany Caldwell, the self-appointed ruler of the school, had already spotted her. With perfectly curled hair, a designer jacket, and her entourage in tow, Brittany moved like she owned every inch of space around her. Mia barely took 3 steps before Brittany deliberately shifted into her path, blocking her like a wall of arrogance. Well, look what wandered in," she said loud enough for half the cafeteria to hear. Her voice dripped with fake sweetness, the kind meant to cut. Mia kept her gaze low, offering a polite but distant smile, hoping it would end there. But Brittany wasn't the kind to let someone walk away from her. As Mia tried to sidestep, Brittany's manicured hand shot out and snagged the strap of her worn, faded backpack. The sudden pull jerked Mia backward, nearly knocking her off balance. A few kids nearby paused mid-bite to watch. "What's in here?" Brittany sneered, tugging on the strap again. "Bricks? Trauma? Or just all your insecurities?" Laughter bubbled from her friends. Mia steadied her breathing, refusing to let the embarrassment show on her face. "Please," she murmured, her voice soft but clear. "Just let me get to my table." Brittany tilted her head, pretending to think about it, then flashed a cruel smile. She released the backpack only to slap Mia's lunch tray out of her hands. It crashed onto the floor, food splattering across the tiles like a loud, messy announcement that the new girl had been officially targeted. The cafeteria gasped as a hush fell over the surrounding tables. Brittany took a step closer, crossing her arms smugly. "Oops," she cooed. "Looks like someone needs to work on their reflexes." Mia swallowed hard, her eyes fixed on the spilled food, cheeks burning with humiliation. She bent slightly, reaching to pick up the tray, but Brittany planted a foot in front of it, blocking her again. "You ignoring me now? That's cute," she said, leaning forward. Her voice was low and edged. "But I don't like being ignored." Mia straightened slowly. Her hands trembled, not with fear, but with restraint. She looked Brittany in the eyes for the first time, a calmness settling over her features that didn't match the situation. "Don't do this," she said quietly, her voice steady as stone. For a moment, something flickered in Brittany's expression. Confusion, maybe, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. Brittany scoffed loudly, tossing her hair back. "Oh, honey," she said with a grin. "I'm just getting started." And with a sudden shove to Mia's shoulder, she made sure everyone knew it. Brittany's shove sent Mia stumbling back a few steps, her shoes sliding across the slick cafeteria floor. A few students laughed, but most simply watched, frozen, wide-eyed, unsure whether to intervene or record. The cafeteria, once loud and chaotic, seemed to shift its energy toward the unfolding scene like a collective spotlight. Brittany took a slow, deliberate step forward, savoring the attention. "What's wrong, new girl?" she taunted, her voice dripping with superiority. "Didn't they teach you how to stand up straight in whatever bargain bin school you came from?" Her entourage snickered, forming a loose semicircle that trapped Mia in place. Some kids at nearby tables leaned in. Others shrank back, sensing the tension tightening like a coiled spring. Mia brushed off her sleeve, inhaled deeply, and tried once more to retreat. But Brittany wasn't finished. She grabbed the strap of Mia's backpack again, yanking her backward with enough force to jerk her shoulder. The sudden pain made Mia wince. "Where do you think you're going?" Brittany demanded. "I didn't say you could leave." Mia's jaw tightened. She tried to keep her voice calm, but the strain was evident. "I'm not looking for trouble," she said. "Please, just let me go." Brittany rolled her eyes dramatically. "God, you're boring," she spat. Then she turned to her friends. "Watch this." In one aggressive motion, she grabbed Mia's backpack, ripped it off her shoulder, and threw it to the ground. It landed with a heavy thud. One of Brittany's friends kicked it across the floor, sending notebooks and pencils spilling out like shattered pieces of Mia's patience. A boy at a nearby table winced and whispered, "Dude, that's messed up." Another girl nudged him nervously. "Shoo, Brittany will hear you." The tension continued to thicken, stretching across the cafeteria like a storm cloud ready to burst. Mia crouched down to gather her scattered belongings, but Brittany shoved her again, harder this time. Mia's hand slipped, her elbow slamming into the floor. More gasps echoed across the room. "Ah, poor baby," Brittany mocked. "Maybe next time don't walk around here like you're too good to talk to me." Mia stood slowly, dusting off her palms. Her eyes were calm but focused, like she was silently containing something dangerous. Brittany noticed the shift but, blinded by her arrogance, smirked wider. "What? You gonna cry?" she said, stepping closer until she was inches from Mia's face. "Or maybe you're gonna run to a teacher?" Mia took one slow breath. "This is your last chance," she said, her voice low but steady, almost chilling in its certainty. "Stop." Brittany blinked, thrown off for a split second by the unexpected confidence in Mia's tone. Then she barked a loud, mocking laugh. "Oh please," she scoffed. "You? Threaten me?" She shoved Mia again, this time with both hands, putting her full weight into it. The crowd leaned forward as one. They all felt it. The line had been crossed. Mia's fingers curled slightly at her sides. The room held its breath. The final warning had been given. The shove should have sent Mia staggering, but instead she planted her foot firmly, stopping herself just inches before colliding with a table. Something shifted in her posture, so subtle most people missed it, but not Brittany. Her brow furrowed with brief confusion, quickly replaced by irritation. "Why aren't you falling?" she snapped, reaching out to shove Mia again. But the moment Brittany's hands lunged forward, time seemed to stretch. Mia's eyes narrowed, her focus sharpening like a blade. Her breath slowed. Every muscle in her body coil tightened, not in fear, but in readiness. When Brittany made contact, Mia didn't resist, she flowed. She stepped slightly to the side, caught Brittany's wrist with a feather-like grip, and in one fluid motion redirected the force. Brittany's own momentum betrayed her, sending her stumbling forward. She tried to regain her balance, but Mia's foot hooked behind her ankle in a move so smooth it barely registered until Brittany's body was already flipping. She hit the cafeteria floor with a loud, echoing thud that silenced the entire room. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Brittany's friends froze, stunned, mouths falling open as they tried to understand how Brittany, who prided herself on being untouchable, was suddenly lying on the ground looking up at the fluorescent lights in disbelief. One of the girls screamed, "Get her!" acting more out of panic than loyalty. She rushed toward Mia, fingers clawed, but Mia moved before the girl even reached her. A quick sidestep, a pivot. Mia caught the girl's arm mid-swing and guided it downward, pressing her off balance and gently pinning her against the edge of a table. Not hurting her, just controlling her, firmly and undeniably. Another girl charged from behind, but Mia ducked without even looking back, sweeping her leg in a tight arc. The girl's feet lifted from the floor as if the ground had disappeared beneath her, sending her tumbling into a chair. The chair screeched backward, toppling over with her. The entire cafeteria seemed to hold its breath. Every movement Mia made was precise, economical, almost artistic. There was no wasted energy, no wild swings, just smooth, practiced motions that told a story of years of training and discipline. Mia stepped back, her breathing steady, posture calm and centered. Around her, Brittany and her entourage lay scattered, disoriented and frightened, looking up at the girl they thought would be easy prey. Several students exchanged bewildered glances. A boy whispered, "Dude, she didn't even break a sweat." Another murmured, What even was that?" Brittany, red-faced and trembling, pushed herself up on her elbows. The terror in her eyes was unmistakable, not fear of pain, but fear of understanding. This wasn't luck. This wasn't coincidence. This was skill way beyond anything Brittany had imagined the quiet new girl could possess. Mia didn't gloat. She didn't smirk. She simply stood there, composed and unshaken, while the cafeteria around her remained stunned, struggling to process the fact that the girl they'd mocked moments ago had just dismantled an entire group of bullies without breaking her calm. The room was silent. Mia simply waited. For a long moment, the cafeteria was frozen in an almost eerie silence, as if everyone collectively forgot how to breathe. Mia stood at the center, calm and composed, her posture relaxed but alert, like someone who had long ago learned to control her reactions better than most people could control their thoughts. The bullies she had effortlessly dismantled lay scattered around her, groaning, stunned, or too shocked to speak. Then, the sudden squeak of shoes against the tile floor broke the silence. Vice Principal Harrison stormed into the cafeteria, his face flushed and stern. "What is going on in here?" he barked, scanning the room for the source of the disruption. His eyes widened when he saw Brittany on the floor, her friends scrambling upright beside her, and Mia standing alone, untouched. A few students tried to explain all at once, but it came out as a chaotic mess of voices. Harrison raised a hand sharply, and the room went silent again. Another teacher, Ms. Alvarez, hurried up behind him, out of breath. She took one look at Mia, and her expression shifted from concern to recognition. She leaned in close to Harrison, whispering quickly into his ear. Whatever she said made him straighten abruptly. His stern expression melted into something else, surprise, then a sort of awe. The vice principal adjusted his glasses, looked slowly around the room, and then turned his attention to Brittany and her group, who were still gathering themselves from the floor. "Do any of you," he said loudly, his voice carrying across the entire cafeteria, "have any idea who you just tried to attack?" The words hung in the air. Brittany's face paled, confusion wrinkling her forehead. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Harrison stepped forward, his tone booming with authority. "This is Mia Torres," he announced, two-time junior national jiu-jitsu champion. She's competed internationally. She's been training since she was 5 years old. A collective gasp rippled through the cafeteria. Conversations broke out in hushed whispers, disbelief spreading like wildfire. Students who had been laughing moments earlier now stared at Mia with newfound awe, their expressions shifting from amusement to respect. Even the ones who had been afraid to intervene earlier looked guilty now, realizing they had misjudged the quiet girl who carried herself like someone used to being underestimated. Brittany's mouth dropped open. Her eyes darted from Harrison to Mia, then back to the floor where she had just been flipped moments earlier. For the first time, the confident bully looked small, like her world had suddenly tilted off its axis. One of her friends whispered, She's a champion?" But Brittany didn't answer. She couldn't. The reality of what had happened, and who she had messed with, sank into her like a weight. Meanwhile, Mia remained calm, saying nothing, offering no gloating smile or triumphant pose. She didn't need to. The room understood now. Everyone did. She wasn't just the new girl. She was someone powerful, someone disciplined, someone who could defend herself without arrogance or aggression. And the revelation settled over the cafeteria like a powerful truth finally unveiled. Brittany's face was pale, her usual confidence completely stripped away, leaving only a raw, jittery panic that she hadn't known existed. She scrambled backward on the floor, her hands shaking, as if trying to put some physical distance between herself and Mia could erase the humiliation she had just endured. Her friends hovered nervously nearby, glancing at each other, unsure whether to defend her or melt into the crowd. "Mia, wait," Brittany stammered, her voice cracking under the weight of embarrassment. I didn't know. I didn't know who you were." Her hands fumbled as she tried to regain composure. I'm sorry. It was just, we were joking. We didn't mean." Her words tumbled out like a desperate torrent, unconvincing even to her own ears. Mia's eyes met Brittany's, calm and steady, unflinching. She didn't move, didn't speak, simply let Brittany's words hit the space between them like arrows bouncing off an invisible shield. Brittany tried again, desperation rising in her tone. "Please. Look, I just don't tell anyone. I'll make it up to you." Stop," Mia interrupted, her voice quiet but firm, cutting through the chaotic murmurs of the cafeteria. Every student in the room leaned in, sensing the shift. "You don't get to bully someone," Mia said slowly, her gaze locked on Brittany, and then pretend it never happened with a fake apology. Brittany flinched, blinking rapidly, as if trying to recalibrate her brain to comprehend the cool authority emanating from someone half her size and half her assumed weakness. I'm serious," Brittany whined, her voice trembling. "I'll do anything. I'll. Mia shook her head slightly, letting the motion speak louder than words. Her eyes softened only fractionally, enough to make it clear she was not cruel, only resolute. "Next time," Mia said, her tone carrying the weight of both warning and finality. "Try being a decent human being." It's a lot easier than picking on someone you think is weaker than you. The words landed like a hammer. Brittany's mouth opened and closed, searching for a response, but none came. Her friends shuffled uneasily, realizing they had followed the wrong leader and that the consequences were now unavoidable. The humiliation in Brittany's eyes was deep, raw, and irreversible. A few students whispered to one another, murmuring about how quick and controlled Mia had been, how the new girl had not only defended herself, but utterly dismantled the social hierarchy Brittany had tried to impose. Brittany's knees scraped against the cafeteria floor as she tried to rise, but the weight of embarrassment and fear kept her grounded. Her attempts to regain power felt absurd and pathetic, and she realized it fully. She had been outmatched in skill, composure, and morality. Mia didn't linger for applause. She didn't need it. She simply straightened, collected her belongings from the floor, and turned away, leaving Brittany and her entourage to stew in the consequences of their actions. Every eye in the cafeteria followed her, not in mockery, not in laughter, but in awe. Mia's departure was quiet, composed, yet every student knew they had just witnessed something extraordinary, a display of skill, courage, and dignity that no amount of bullying could ever touch. Brittany remained frozen, the bitter taste of regret settling into her stomach, knowing she had lost, not just the fight, but her credibility, her power, and the fragile sense of superiority she had taken for granted. The aftermath of the cafeteria showdown left the room buzzing with a mixture of awe, gossip, and embarrassment. Brittany and her friends sat on the floor, nursing bruised egos more than anything else. As Vice Principal Harrison stepped forward, his expression a balance of stern authority and exasperation. "Brittany Caldwell," he said, his voice carrying across the entire room. "You and your friends will report to the office immediately. You are facing suspension, and depending on the report from your teachers, removal from all school activities is not out of the question." Brittany's jaw dropped, and she stumbled backward, suddenly realizing that the consequences were very real and inescapable. Her friends muttered among themselves, fear replacing the arrogance that had carried them through so many previous pranks and bullying sessions. Meanwhile, the students who had watched from nearby tables whispered to one another, sharing astonished glances and reassessing everything they thought they knew about Mia. Some began to step forward, offering apologies for laughing or standing by. Others simply looked on with admiration. A girl from a nearby table finally spoke up, her voice trembling with excitement. "Mia, you were amazing. I mean, you didn't even touch them roughly, and you just handled it all." Mia gave a small, calm smile, the kind that didn't need words to convey confidence or kindness. She bent down, collected her scattered lunch tray, and carefully placed the spilled food into the trash. Movement was precise, deliberate, and completely composed, leaving no doubt that she was someone who had earned her respect not through intimidation, but through discipline and self-control. As she walked to an empty table, several students rose to invite her to sit with them, and for the first time since she had entered the cafeteria, Mia felt a sense of belonging. Brittany and her friends were escorted out of the room, muttering excuses and stammering apologies, their previous arrogance now completely stripped away by the reality of their actions and the undeniable proof of Mia's abilities. The room gradually returned to its normal rhythm, though the story of what had happened would ripple through the school for weeks to come. Students whispered about the quiet new girl who had shown them all the power of calm confidence and mastery, and how one could never truly judge someone based on appearances alone. Mia sat down, quietly enjoying her lunch, but the lesson she had taught was already echoing through the cafeteria. Strength doesn't always look loud or flashy, and sometimes the person who seems weakest is the one you least want to underestimate. The moral was clear: never judge a book by its cover, and never underestimate someone based on first impressions. As the camera lingered on Mia's serene face, the narration closed in a warm, resonant tone, reinforcing the lesson. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who appear quiet, who wait for the right moment to reveal their true power, teaching a lesson without arrogance, but with absolute authority. And with that, Mia walked away from the chaos, victorious, calm, and unshakable, a true example of courage, discipline, and resilience. Remember, if you love this story, don't forget to hit that like button, Leave a comment on what you think Mia should do next, and subscribe for more incredible stories that show the power of standing up for yourself.